Hello there. So here's where we update you in the world of business. My name is Abigail Adomakoenchi. Now, after the Black Star Line, we haven't really seen any shipping line that is local. And the executive chair of the African Independent Coastal Services, the only company running a Ghanaian flagged ship along the West African coastline, Stanley Aholu, is asking government to enforce the legislation which restricts coastal trading to Ghanaian-owned ships. He says the numerous foreign ships trading in the Ghanaian waters, apart from doing so illegally, are hindering the growth of the local shipping industry, adding that Ghana is losing huge revenues to these multinational shipping lines without an established domestic shipping industry. The domestic shipping industry is a very critical, crucial, essential tool needed for economic development. But unfortunately for Ghana, this industry has not really yielded much results. But the good news is that there are some companies that are coming up strongly, local companies. And one such company is the African Independent Coastal Services. It is the only company in Ghana and across West Africa that is giving feeder services, diverting cargoes from the road through the sea to other ports across the West African coastline. Now, I would want to find out, in such an industry that is not well established and as a company that is fighting against all kinds of competition, the styling, how are they making it, and how is government supporting these companies to really come up and contribute immensely to the economy?
The fact of the matter is that we are working within a context. There isn't an existence of a domestic shipping industry. Ghana doesn't have a domestic shipping industry, even though there are certain laws on the books aimed at facilitating the growth of the development and growth of a domestic shipping industry. We haven't seen that for decades, since the Black Star Line ships and then Nkrumah's Black Star Line ships. We haven't seen that. So we found ourselves chartering a new path and trying to do business as an avant-garde entity. It's in itself a difficulty. We
don't really have an established domestic shipping industry, and not having that and you setting the pace, what are the benefits in there for us, and what are we losing as an economy without this particular industry in place?
Well, Ghana is losing a lot of money. We're an import-dependent country. All we consume comes in from outside, from Europe, from Asia, name it. 90% of that, the transportation of that import into our country is done by sea. And I think it's even more than 90%. We could even peg it at 95% of our international trade is seaborne. And therefore, you can immediately see that if you don't control the transportation of that, you're losing money, not only in terms of the purchase of the imports, but also the transportation of freight of the imports. Now, so that's one aspect of it. And therefore, you're paying a disproportionate amount in terms of freight relative to other countries that own their own fleet. Even transportation, that should have been done by sea, because we have a wide coastline. Yeah. We could carry cargo between Tema and Takoradi. It's now being done by road. There's a pressure on the road. So the cost of that on your infrastructure, the cost of that on your environment, because if you're using trucks to carry cargo all the time between Tema and Takoradi, for example, or beyond Takoradi from Tema, the cost of that, not only in tangible terms as in money, which I've already explained, because you're losing that to multinational lines, but the cost of that on your infrastructure, on your environment, is something you cannot necessarily quantify.
As a pace setter in this particular industry that is not really established, what would you want to see in place?
The legislation is there restricting local trade, trade within Ghanaian waters to Ghanaian-owned ships, but the law has not been implemented as it should. And therefore, you have multinational lines who are not Ghanaian-owned and Ghanaian flags still plying and doing Ghanaian trade. That's one aspect of it. If you go to South Africa presently, there's the this legislation has been passed to encourage domestic shipping such that you don't pay any taxes for a period of time when you flag a vessel under South African flag. This is to encourage the domestic shipping industry. They saw the need for that, so tax incentives have been put in place to enable that. You could do all the things like the government could assist also in supporting financially, putting financial instruments in place to support local entrepreneurs who want to go into domestic shipping, because the domestic shipping industry is important. You lose a lot of money not having one. You know, security-wise, if you don't control the transportation of your goods, that's a security problem.
Revenue mobilization is indeed a challenge for this economy. We're always running budget deficits, and we do not have enough revenues to run this country. But the domestic shipping industry is another alternative in which we can accrue revenue for this country. Quite clearly, we are losing a lot of money due to the non-existence of this particular industry. And for industry players, as you heard, they need the support of government to be able to be established in this economy that is quite competitive, and to, of course, take away cargoes or trucks that cause congestion and traffic on our roads through the seas, and then generate more revenue for the country.